I am ready, sir.
We'll call the meeting of the April 5 Board of Public Works to order at 5:30 p.m. Amanda, if you have a roll call, please.
Mr. Hoover,
Here.
Mr. Rutherford,
Here.
Mr. Colvin.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Minutes of the regular session of our last meeting of March 15, 2021 have been distributed to members of the board. Any corrections, additions, or deletions from staff? Hearing of none, is there a motion to approve as prepared?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin. Second by Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Chris Watkins has our first item on the agenda tonight, 854 Revere Court. I saw Mr. Watkins on here, and Molly's got the graphics up for us. So, Chris, are you with us?
I am, yes.
Okay, tell us what you'd like to do here.
So if you look at our property so I actually have our next door neighbor, Chris Finner, on call as well to verify the access to their property. But we just basically want to connect into the neighbor's property to know that we need to encroach into drainage and utility easements. I've provided several drawings to not only with the estimate from the fence company, but also through Beacon. And you can see on the drawing where we're going to join in. I know that when I spoke with Jeff earlier today, he said that we would have to have a written letter from Chris and Tanya, which are the next door neighbors on 852 Revere Court, since we will be encroaching on their property to connect in to the fence posts. Basically, in our letter that we have, their dogs and our dogs were all very good friends. We're going to put a gate between and allow the dogs to be able to run back and forth between the 2 yards so we don't tear up along fence lines. So that's the whole purpose of getting the encroachment.
Nice neighbors. Chris, Jeff Weaver has given us a memo dated today with some conditions that he's proposing would be recommendations from his department. Have you seen that?
I received it about an hour and a half ago, as far as just contacting 811, which that will actually be the fence company. It's K&K Fence that's putting it up. They're going to do that before the work even commences. And then I'm in real estate, so I saw Jared Duncan was on here previous to. I've known Jared for years, but I know that if I cross into a utility easement and if it has to be taken out for any reason, it's my expense, and that's something that I'm prepared to do. We also, on the drawings, if you reference everything, I've tried to put gates in, 8-foot gates, basically every possible area that we can. I've got an 8-foot gate on either side of my house on the east and west side. We're going to connect into the Finner's property, but I'm also putting a 4-foot gate across the back in case there's ever any utility easement work that needed to be done there, that there can be access without having to necessarily take the fence out.
Any questions for Mr. Watkins from Shan or Jeff?
I'm good. I'd move for approval.
Subject to those 4 conditions, I take it?
Yes.
So
I'll second that.
I do have one question, though. The information that I received from Jeff earlier today, actually, I think it was Paul Peony that sent this to me. On the letter that it states that we need to be receiving approval from Finner's, that it would be their northeast fence line. From my understanding and looking at it, that would actually be my northeast and their northwest side. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
I think what we were trying to do, just make certain that you have their permission to hook into their fence, and we may have technical glitches and descriptions. But I think that's the crux of it, is to have their approval. So.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Chris. Good luck. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next, we're going to go to Mr. Evan James, 2317 Shadow Trace Way. Mr. James, are you with us?
Yep, that's me.
Okay. Tell us what you'd like to do.
So we are installing a new fence at our brand new property. We are getting approval because we are going into the drainage easement on the north side of our property line as well as the east side of our property line.
I'll ask you the same question. Did you happen to receive a memo from Jeff Weaver with some proposed conditions to be recommended by our engineering department?
Yes, I got that right in front of me.
Okay. Do you have any problems with any of those 5 conditions should the board approve your request?
No, they all look good.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. James?
I would move that we approve his request, subject to those 5 conditions.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Colvin, second by Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you.
And it looks like we have another fence encroachment request from Roy and Julie Sutton at 556 Alton Drive. Ms. Sutton, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Tell us what you'd like to do.
We would like to put a fence along the back of our property line, which is on the north side along April Drive.
Did you receive a memo from Jeff Weaver with some outlining 3 recommended conditions?
I did not.
Well, let me go through them.
Okay.
Three on your, that the encroachment, your fence be constructed to allow for adequate drainage. And if the engineering division or the stormwater department determines there's been a drainage issue created by your fence, then you will be responsible for correcting that drainage issue. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. The second condition is that if there's any work that needs to be done in the easement by any of the utilities or the city, the property owner, you would be responsible for any removal and replacement of any of the fence at your sole expense. And you would further hold the city harmless for any damage to said fence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last condition is that you notify Indiana 811 prior to installing your fence so that all the buried utilities can be marked. Do you agree with that?
Yes, we will do that.
Well, given that, are there any other conditions?
Mr. Hoover, this is Daniel. There is one other item to consider here.
Okay.
And you can slightly see it in the left image. Near the road, there's a very thin red line. That's actually a sanitary sewer line. It is roughly in the same spot where the homeowner is proposing to put their fence. So one additional condition that we'd like to recommend the board include is that the homeowner would coordinate with the sanitation field staff just to double check the depth of that existing sanitary sewer. They have a depth that they're comfortable with. I'm not sure exactly what it is, so I don't want to speak on their behalf. But if it is deep enough, then they'll be able to work around it in terms of the fence location. It should still follow or fall under, condition number 2. If the sanitation department needed to get in there and do any work, that it'd be the homeowner's expense to reinstall the fence after that work was done. But I did want to bring up just that there is a sanitation line in that easement.
Daniel, do you have the sanitation telephone number so she can make contact?
Yes, ma'am. Are you ready to write down this number?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. It's area code 317-888-1254. 317-888-1254.
Okay.
And that recommended additional condition is just that you contact before you begin construction of your encroachment so that they can advise about the depth of the line, make certain that primarily your fence posts aren't going to be damaging that line.
Okay. We can do that. And we did send them a letter, and we are leaving the manhole on the outside of the fence.
Any other
But we will call
questions?
them.
Well, if not, I will move that we approve this encroachment request subject to the 3 conditions in Jeff Weaver's memo dated March 30, 2021, as well as the requirement that the property owner contact the sanitation field office prior to construction to discuss issues regarding their encroachment.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Sutton.
Thank you.
And I think we've got one more encroachment request from Angela Stevens. Ms. Stevens, are you with us?
Hi, good evening. I'm here.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Tell us what you'd like to do.
Hi, yes, so I have requested to install a fence on the perimeter of my property, essentially in the backyard, which, as far as encroachment, would encroach on the drainage easement behind my home bordering a drainage pond. And I've read all the conditions for the approval, understand it's my responsibility to provide access, and then if anything were to come up that would require the fence to be removed, to do that as well. And I agree to all of those.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions for Ms. Stevens?
I would move we approve her request subject to those conditions.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. You as well.
Molly, are you with us? Molly, tell us about the National Day of Prayer requests. And Molly, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. It's, sorry, it's the mute button. National Day of Prayer. So they've asked permission to gather on the north parking lot of the city building on May 6th from 7 to 9 a.m. And that's a Thursday.
Do we have any other besides city people that might use that parking lot? Are there across this main street that?
It's so early that, you know, there are a couple of law offices and there's a chiropractor, but anyone who wanted to, I don't imagine they're going to take up the whole parking lot. So, I mean, I think there's ample parking there for others who would like to use it.
They have been meeting there around the clock on Saturday mornings, around 9 o'clock, and they only have about 10. They do anticipate more there for this one. I talked to Robert Whiteside, who's kind of heading this up, and they're very willing to do whatever is necessary and understand whatever conditions or permission or non-permission comes.
So they anticipate between 50 and 75 people.
They'll be lucky to have that, I can tell you from past experience.
Okay.
But I hope they're right.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of other parking available in that shouldn't be an issue, so.
I believe there is ample parking available outside of that area.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'd move to approve it.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
then the next
My other request is the mall is planning on having a spring carnival for 10 days, April 15th through the 25th. And you can see on the slide the hours they want to have it. And this request is for a noise waiver only, since it's on private property.
I'm trying to picture where on the parking lot this is at. Is this,
So this is, that's Sears.
okay, so
And
this
this
is,
is Dick's, I believe, and that's Von Mars. So
this is back towards the theater and
yes, this is the theater
Madison
right
Avenue.
down here. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe they've had these in the past.
They had something a few months ago, just some carnival type things that were there. I don't know if it was sponsored by the mall or what, but
What kind of noise are they talking about? Is it music or
Well, they're gonna have like
rides?
carnival rides, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if I can get you a list. Carnival rides, food wagons, and games is what they say.
The time of day that those are, I wouldn't think of any problem with neighbors. There's no neighbors that close.
No, not really.
nice to have some activity back around the mall too.
That's right.
Well, I've moved that we approve the carnival request for the noise waiver as requested.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. Have a good evening. I know you're staying with us. Mr. Shell, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I hope the
Good.
board is all in good shape.
Good to see you.
What I'm coming for you tonight is 2 weeks ago, I came and presented a change order for K&K Fence for, among other things, a salt barn gate operator. And as we got closer to doing the installation, the Department of Public Works requested that we modify that salt barn operator so that it wasn't just a single gooseneck at car height. They would like to have a double gooseneck. In other words, the second one is the height of the dump trucks that would pull in and fill up with salt. And this would cost an additional $795. So it's amending the, not amending the previous. It's I guess it's an additional change order for increasing the price by $795.
Seems to be a reasonable request to me. Questions
Yeah,
for John?
it's something we should have caught the first time, but fortunately we caught it before we had the first one installed.
Probably don't need to be getting drivers out of their vehicles to bend down and the gate, so. I move we request we approve the change order request.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, John. Now let's talk to Ryan Hahn from Greenwood Business Center. Ryan, are you with us?
I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Very good.
Okay, Mr. Hoover, this is a request. This is for our property at 1784 East Main Street. This is for a parking lot addition that we completed last year associated with a tenant in that building. So we're requesting acknowledgement of the completion of improvements and release of the subdivision performance bond. I've got 41K 007745 in the amount of $8,048.81.
Daniel, I guess this particularly comes within your bailiwick. Everything look good on that?
Yes, no issues with this.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Thank you,
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Ryan. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. You too.
Mr. Riddle.
How are we
Kevin,
doing?
Good. You've got a lot tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Let's go through these. Your first one is Honey Creek Meadows, Section 1.
Yeah, Honey Creek Meadows, we're just cleaning up some maintenance bonds. Most of these maintenance bonds had expired. So in like Section 1, we're asking for the release of the maintenance bonds for the curb, base, binder, and guardrail.
And Daniel, I'm going to kind of ask you a blanket question on all these Honey Creek Meadows. If you've got something to say, speak up other than what we've got in the memos, okay? Everything look good? Okay.
Yes.
Let's deal with Section 1. Is there a motion on Section 1?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Second by Mr. Colvin. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Kevin, let's go on to Section 2.
Section 2 is the stone base binder and curbs.
I'll move that we approve that, all is set forth in Paul Peony's April 5 memo to us. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Riddle, Section 3.
Section 3 is stone base binder and curbs as well.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
this is Daniel. And on Section 3, there's also a release of the dirt work and storm. So just, since Kevin had mentioned the details, I was just adding that one onto the list since it's a little unique.
Oh, thanks, Daniel.
That is included in Paul's memo to us, though, right?
That is
Yeah.
correct. I see what
Okay.
you're saying, yes.
Was there a second to Jeff's motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. And Section 4.
Section 4 is signs of monuments, asphalt surface, and erosion control.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion passes. And Kevin, is this going to be your last one, Section 5?
Yes, sir, it is signs of monuments, asphalt surface, and erosion control as well for Section 5.
I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion passes. Kevin, have a good rest of your evening.
You too. Thanks, everybody.
Mr. Fagan,
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you again.
good to see you.
I guess I should open by thanking Mr. Riddle for cleaning up my unfinished business in Honey Creek Meadows. That having been said, I'm here with Dave's Homes this evening, however, representing Greenwood Village South. We're requesting the release of performance bond number 215-71309 for streets and curbs, as well as performance bond number 215-71076 for street signs and monuments. I should also point out that the monuments were not set, as this is not really technically a platted subdivision, and no maintenance sureties are being posted because all of these improvements will remain private. So with that, I'll entertain any questions and defer to you.
First, just I mentioned before we went on the record that I'm a board member at Greenwood Village, and while I don't have any financial involvement in this, I just wanted to close that information. I know Mr. Morrow is on the Zoom meeting with us as well.
Thank you.
Any questions for Bruce on this?
I would move we approve the request.
Mr. Hoover, this is Daniel.
Yes, Daniel.
I know Mr. Fagan mentioned some bond numbers. Those are actually a little different than the bond numbers that we have. So Bruce, we've got for the streets, the private streets, we have bond number 2273142.
Okay.
And then the performance bond for the signage, we have it as 2273143.
I've made a note of it. Daniel, thank you for correcting. I'm not sure I picked those numbers up from, but that's probably my error.
And Jeff, in your motion, would that be subject to the condition that those?
Yes, yeah, the correct bond, the bond number that's listed in our memo dated April 5th.
Thank you. Shane, did you second that?
Yes, second.
Great, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you, gentlemen.
Next, let's turn to the audience. Is there anyone on this Zoom call that would like to address the board this evening? Not hearing from anybody. Let's go on to Mr. Hodson with the IDM compliance plan status update.
Our reports are current and all's well with IDM.
That's what we like to hear. Thank you, Sam. Now your status of tasks.
I only have one contract for you to consider today, and this is for reseal coating. This is to do the parking lot here at City Center. This contract is for $12,849.
Sam, when would they be doing that? Do you know?
Hold on, I'm looking.
I just want to make sure it didn't conflict with the National Day of Prayer.
Oh, no, it's not that soon. I think that they're talking about finishing it in 45 days. So the work will, if you approve tonight, the work will start within 10 days.
Mr. Hoover, it's Terry McLaughlin. We would hope, we usually do this on a weekend, so we get with the bank to make sure it doesn't interfere with their Saturday drive up, but when they get to that side of the building, they'll have to, so it might be a 2-day, but it's usually done on a Saturday, partial Saturday, and finished up on a Sunday.
Okay, I just thought, since we talked about that spot on the parking lot,
Yeah.
make sure. Okay. Any other questions for Sam or Terry on this contract? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Give that to Mr. Rutherford, second by Mr. Colvin. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Sam, we also had the consideration of the annual Title VI report. Is that something that requires any action, or is it just a reporting?
Just reporting.
No, we actually removed that from the agenda. That'll come at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Sam, is that all for this evening?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel.
All right, good evening. I have 3 items on the agenda plus 3 very quick walk-ons, 3 O&M manuals, approvals, that is. So the first item is the 2021 annual paving project, the award of contract. We had the bid opening back on March 25th. We received 6 bids. They're all listed there in the memo in front of you. As it turns out, the 3 lowest bidders all had documentation errors. Therefore, legal staff identified that the 4th bidder was actually the low responsive and responsible bidder, that being All-Star Paving. And so we are, after discussions with other city staff, we're looking to recommend the base bid and as well as alternate number 1 as the project. So there's the contract amount, $1,854,770.95. We're also going to request to have a contingency amount of $145,229.05. That basically brings it up to roughly a total of $2 million all in, but that was the 1.8 number was the construction. So our request is that you authorize city staff to prepare the contract with All-Star Paving, and then to authorize the mayor or deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf, and also authorize the 7.8% construction contingency as well.
Well, I'll make that motion, but I'll also add that we reject for deficiencies the bids from Dave O'Mara, Midwest Paving, and from Baumgart. Even though they were lower, they were deficient in their submission. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Shan. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
My next item, and actually these next two items are similar, so I'll try to differentiate them. This second item, this is with the NDOT Railroad Grade Crossing Fund. In 2019, we actually, and it doesn't apply to what's on screen now, so there's not a graphic associated with these. But we were awarded, the city was awarded a $7,000 grant for pavement marking improvements at railroad crossings here in the city. As it turns out, the Academy Street crossing was closed in conjunction with a Johnson County-led railroad safety improvement project. So that was reduced out of the scope. So our project here only improved pavement markings at Main Street, Broadway Street, and Meridian Street. This was a complete grant. It was a complete pass-through type of program. No city funds were spent on the project. The cost of the work was $3,750. So in the process of this project, we followed how it was handled back in 2014 when an almost identical project was held. There was a contractor involved in the grant. However, to actually pay the contractor this time, we definitely need to have a retroactive contract with that contractor, so that finance can process the pass-through payments with the NDOT grant funds. And so our motion tonight is to ratify the mayor's signature on the contract with AAA Striping on the board's behalf and to authorize city staff to process and pay the grant funds received from NDOT for the services.
Thank you. Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
My next item is also with that same program, but with a subsequent fiscal year. We were last fall in 2020, we were awarded a grant of $35,000. This is another pass-through grant. There's no city funds involved. The scope of the work will include, we involve constructing permanent closures, items, barricades, signage at that Academy Street crossing that I mentioned previously that was closed. Right now, we just have some temporary closure items. We want to get something a little more permanent. So we'll have the specs prepared and then also seek bids. So my request from you is to authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf the agreement with NDOT and to authorize city staff to prepare project specifications and to seek bids and quotes for this work.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And then my next three items, they're all stormwater operations and maintenance manuals. The first is for the area shown on screen in Emerson Park. And so the request is to authorize the mayor or deputy mayor to sign on the board behalf the O&M manual for water quality so that it can be recorded by the developer.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cobbin. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Aye.
Next is similar for McCormick Estates sections 1 and 2. Again, requesting the board to authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf O&M manual so it can be recorded.
Mr. Cobbin, looks like you want to make that motion, right?
Sure. Yeah, I'll make that motion.
And Mr. Rutherford wants to second it?
Second. I've been jumping on that.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And the last one is also for Ona Emanuel. This is for Wendy's over in the South Park Business Center area. Again, requesting to authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf, Ona Emanuel, so it can be recorded by the developer at the county.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Daniel.
Daniel, I've got a question real quick.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that you can maybe look into this. Since we have closed Madison Avenue southbound at Fry Road, the light at Fry and 31, which I know is probably controlled by NDOT, could we look at maybe getting that timing adjusted a little bit to maybe alleviate some of the backup that's occurring there, especially the westbound traffic?
Right. And we actually reached out to them 2 months ago, I'd say, with that exact same question, especially during peak hours, the evening rush hour for left turns there. I have not yet seen a response, unfortunately, but I know we did reach out to them, tried to explain it.
I'll be at the NDOT commissioner's house tomorrow, so I may bring that up.
It's really bad. I sat through about 5 lights there trying to turn left one afternoon.
Right.
And even getting out of there is out of the Kohl's or the Taco Bell, that
yeah, it's impossible.
Go west and stuff.
Right.
Mr. Copeland. Terry McLaughlin.
Hey, Terry.
So just to follow up, after I talked to Daniel, I placed a call to NDOT, and I was told in a very nice way in certain terms that their whole system is set up, and if they make an adjustment to that, so the traffic lights all the way up 31 then are out of sync, and they won't even consider it.
They're out of sync now.
Well,
I'm kidding.
we're thinking alike very much, Mr. Rutherford. But yeah, they said they have them timed from like Thompson Road south. And I asked for that special thing. So if you're ever traveling at whatever point and you could hold your speed and have no traffic, maybe you could get from 465 to Greenwood and never stop, but that never seems to happen. But I did do a follow-up after I'd spoken with Daniel about this to try to ask him to consider it. But Mr. Coven, I'd suggest if you're going to be at somebody's house tomorrow, please bring it up again.
I will do that.
Maybe his wife Ann could persuade him.
She might have more influence. Yeah.
Okay. Jared, are you standing in for the controller this evening?
No, this is Greg.
Oh, hi, Greg.
All right. So I should have my screen shared with you here with the liability and property insurance. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we sent out an updated one on Friday. Our insurance broker came back with an alternative pricing to go with Travelers for a lot of these lines where we used to have Liberty. So our recommendation is to accept the Travelers alternative, specifically because it is quite a bit of a reduction. There's one line item where they are more expensive. That's the law enforcement. A big part of that is just everything going on in the country right now. Plus, we do have some outstanding claims that they are looking at as being a risk to them. So that's why that one's higher, but the significant drop in auto is really worth it for us. The one other option that I'm recommending is we go with the $100,000 deductible in the cyber insurance. That one took a really big jump this year, and in talking to our broker, it's mostly because it is a fairly new line. They don't have a lot of history, so they're making it up as they go mostly. And so they are, as they're getting more municipalities and governments getting hit with ransomware type things, that line is jumping around a lot. So that's why I suggest we'll go with the higher deductible, get the lower premium. Got quite a bit of faith in our IT department to keep us safe. So what we'd be looking at is about a 5% decrease in total premiums if we go with the traveler's alternative. So I'd be asking for the board to approve that option and give the mayor authority to sign.
Questions for Greg on this?
No, I would move we approve that request.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Have a good evening.
You too.
Mr. Rutherford, looks like it's your turn.
I would move for the approval of the claims as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Anything else for the good of the cause? Hearing none, we'll stand adjourned at 6:11 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you. Well, I hope to see you before then. It's not till end